Is my voice coming through okay? I see thumbs up, great. And can y'all see my slide? And more thumbs up, excellent. All right, so let's get this going. So I am Colfina Inkira Alter's daughter. I am the current Ansteorra Kingdom Webminister, and I'm going to be running this meeting today. Hopefully you all are Webministers or Seneschals or just people generally interested in the web ministry, and I'm hoping this will be interesting for you. I am planning, I am going to record this so that if folks have to bounce or leave early, I can send it via email to Webministers as after this event. So if you know somebody who can't make it, feel and tell them to look forward to seeing the slides afterwards. Okay, so what's this going to cover today? I do have slides to keep me from rambling too much. I'm going to start off with some general announcements and updates. There's an announcement coming from my office to you all, and things to look forward to. I'm going to do a quick policy overview. This is going to be targeted toward kind of the very foundational rules governing branch Webministers. I'm going to do a quick talk about event web pages. What should be on it? Where do you find resources? Because I know that is a pain point that we run into a lot. What do I put on my event page? And then I'm going to do a technology review is what I'm calling it. I'm going to just briefly cover 3 technologies that if you are a Webminister and you're having to manage the online presence and website for your group, these are 3 tools that I think make it way easier to do. And so I'll talk a little bit about them, and hopefully you can bring them back to your groups and see if you want to adopt them. Bum, bum, bum. All right, general announcements. So here's my announcements. The first one, I'm very pleased to announce that I have been working on developing an Ansteorra Webminister's Handbook. This is something that Ansteorra has never had. Our Ansteorra policy related to the web ministry is very minimal. I think it's currently like 1 sentence that says Webminister manages the website, and that's not really sufficient to guide us or kind of shape the office in a way that's healthy. So I have been developing and have finished making a draft Webminister's Handbook. And I'm ready to send it out. So I'm going to be sending this, I'm going to give 2 weeks, so until February 3rd, for folks to read it and give me any feedback. So I'll be sending this to like Crown, grade officers, everybody kind of in my reporting chain, so that if folks have opinions or important questions that you think the handbook should cover and it's not, you can give me that information and I can make sure that it's doing a good job of covering the content. And next announcement is I'm going to be working on what I'm calling an Ansteorra Kingdom Webminister Guide. So less formal than a handbook, gets more down into the nitty-gritty details to document things that I have learned in this office so that folks can review it, reference it, get a much better sense for like what does this job actually entail. That's going to be something I'm going to be working on like immediately after Gulf Wars. So I'm estimating I'll be able to start pushing that out, or make that available probably in the summer. May is kind of where my ballpark is for that. I've been partnering, Koke, who is our Vindheim Regional Webminister, has been working on documenting basically the duties for regional Webministers. Vindheim Webminister is still a very new position, and her and I have been figuring out like how does the responsibilities need to shake out for a regional, and she's been working to document that. So I'm going to work with her spring summer to kind of publish that in a way that other folks can read about it and learn things. Right now we don't have any other regional deputies in Ansteorra, but having had the chance to work with the Vindheim Regional and figure out how that office works, I have been very pleased in kind of the distribution of work. And so if anybody's interested in talking about, hey, I'd like to do that for southern or central regions, let me know and we can maybe kind of include you in that process so that we can see if that's the direction we want to go. not required. I'm not mandating more regionals. It just throwing it out there because I've enjoyed having that in the kind of reporting chain. Right, guides everywhere. I'm also working on. I'm gonna produce, planning to do text and video walkthrough for common tasks for branch web ministers. There's been a few folks that I've helped onboard over the last 6 months or so, maybe a little longer, and I've got a pretty standard walkthrough of like, let me take you through all the common things in WordPress that you need to do, and here's kind of the main tasks that you'll need to do. And I've done that enough times that I want to kind of polish it up a little bit and make it a little more formal. So that's kind of the scope and intention there. So that's another thing to look forward to. I see a message in the chat about wanting to speak about Southern Regional. Send me an email for today. That's going to be the best way to make sure that I don't lose that, because I would absolutely love to follow up on that. But shoot me an email, kingdom@webminister.ansteorra.org, and that will make sure that I can follow up with you after. Next one. So Roundtable. We've been doing this as a virtual event for 3.5 years now. Got a pretty good rhythm for it, and we're always looking for the next one someone to volunteer to be the tech lead. Coque has taken that job on for this one, so if you want the most recent experience, she's the one to ping. But we do have a pretty thorough standard operating procedures document that details major tasks, responsibilities, and we update that after every roundtable so that it's a living guide. And I can share that around. Yes, I agree. Coque is awesome. If folks are interested in just seeing like what does this look like. So if you're at all interested in volunteering to help with Roundtable, it's a great way to get experience running a virtual event. This is a virtual conference. You get a lot of help, experience managing volunteers, organizing, communicating about schedules and things like that. And I think it's a really valuable experience. And I want to make it available to anybody who wants to do that. Okay, I'll talk about this a little bit now and then a little bit more. I think this is my last thing on announcements. I created a while back an event website sample page. It's the link is on here, Ansteorra.org, Webminister example event webpage. But I've also linked this. If you go to Ansteorra.org/Webminister, it's linked in the resources tab. If you go to Ansteorra.org/events, there's also a link at the top of the page for that. So I've tried to kind of litter the link around where you can find it. But it basically includes a sample of all the major sections that I recommend that you include on your event webpage. And I'm telling y'all about it so that you can tell your event stewards and your seneschals and the folks who are involved with deciding the details of your event that this sample is there. And so if they need a guide for what should I tell you to put on the website, this is a good place to start. It's not it's not going to include everything. It's not totally comprehensive, but it's a start. So that is a resource that's available. All right. Any questions about those announcements before I move to the next bit? I don't expect me to talk for the full hour, and so if you want to save things to the end as well, that's totally fine. I probably will be talking for maybe another 20 minutes or so. Should be pretty fast. Alrighty. Policy overview. So, branch web ministers. This is our roundtable. We need to be training, so here comes the training part. And these branch webminister info is also stuff that I have included in the Ansteorra Webministers Handbook draft that I'll be circulating after today. So these will be captured in there as well. But basic qualifications, hopefully these make sense. You have to meet the membership requirements for the office. Anybody who wants to be a warranted webminister has to be a member of the society. Webministers especially need to have reliable internet access and be a warranted webminister For branch Webministers, the warranting process is attending roundtable and making sure that I have your information up to date in my roster, and I have I have a warranting form that is the best way to give me that information. You're expected to read, understand, and follow Kingdom web policies and Society web policies. The Kingdom web policies, again, is in a draft that I'll be circulating, and so that will apply as they become officially accepted. Recommend organization, coordination, and delegation skills. Now, depending on how busy your local branch is, the delegation part of that may be non-existent, but it's good to know when it's better to delegate a task out versus doing it yourself, because we don't want anybody overtapped. Recommend understanding the fundamentals of project management, ability to communicate about technology items with non-technical people. A lot of folks, you're going to have a much better sense of the website and the technology behind it than the folks that you're talking to, so it's good to be able to communicate that with them. Good understanding of how technology works, changes, evolves, and an understanding of how to troubleshoot issues when they arise. And specifically for us, familiarity with WordPress and then HTML and CSS as necessary. We don't, for branch websites, the use of HTML and CSS is minimal to none. Now, this is a list of recommended qualifications. A lot of these things are the type of thing that if you're taking on a local Webminister job, you can learn as you go. None of these should be seen as a barrier, except for the first four, which is membership, internet access, warranting, and follow the rules. Those are always going to be in there. Basic responsibilities of a branch Webminister: maintain. Oh yes, good comment in the chat. Your upline can always help. Absolutely. Basic responsibilities: you have to maintain your membership throughout your tenure. Fill out the warranting form whenever your expiration info changes. For this roundtable, I do want to say a huge shout out and thank you to everybody who is a Webminister. My warrant roster is completely up to date with membership expiration dates, and I was able to send my roster up to the Crown yesterday. So yay! You're required submitting quarterly reports no later than the 15th of January, April, July, and October. This month, because Roundtable is today on the 20th, there's a little bit of leeway on that one because I have not checked to see who's submitted. But for anybody who hasn't submitted their quarterly report for January, expect a reminder email to come from me probably tomorrow. Attend the biannual Webminister meeting at Roundtable. If you're here today, check. Or send a representative in your stead. Check and respond to emails in a timely manner. Maintain the website for which you are warranted and make updates in a timely manner. And communicate and collaborate with other branch officers on a regular basis to make sure that information is getting where it needs to go. Including on here, minimum content that a local branch website should have. Copyright statement and disclaimers as outlined in Society web policy. A description of the branch's geographic scope, including modern boundaries. For example, I'm in Bringolad, and so our tagline for the event is like the Austin, Texas branch of the Society for Creative Anachronism. This is important to include in taglines or at the top of your site because it really helps with search engine optimization, because folks who might be interested in historical stuff know that they're in Austin, but they may not know what the SCA is, and that helps the search engines get folks to our pages. You need to have links to Ansteorra.org and SCA.org, links to either the Ansteorra library or links to the governing documents relevant to the branch and its operations. List of the branch's officers and royals or landed nobility. Current calendar of upcoming local activities. Event web pages for any events that your branch is hosting. In some cases for events, you like event details may be on like a Kingdom page, or another group might be hosting it. So if you don't have it on your site, you have to have it, have a link to it so folks can find the information. And then just general information for both newcomers and established members. about the group or activities. That's the minimum that we recommend. Any questions about responsibilities or website content before I move to talking a little more in detail about event pages? Alrighty, moving forward. Event web pages. So what should you include in your event page? This sample page that I have linked here, and I'll send it via email as well, just to keep it as visible as possible. Also includes this information, but basically an event page should have the core information about the event. You know, who, what, when, where, why. Where is it? What's the theme? How much does it cost? How do we get there? All that kind of stuff. Registration and gate fee info, site information or site restrictions. This can that covers a broad array of things. Contact info for your core staff, schedule of activities, descriptions of activities. If you have food, luncheons, water-bearing feast information, anything like that that's relevant to folks. An on-site in case of emergency contact. For most events, this is going to be your event steward. So if you have their contact info, that can kind of count as 2 for 1. Site accessibility information. This is something that we're trying to push really hard so that folks can get all this information and make plans for how they're going to attend your event. The really important question for web ministers is, where are you supposed to get this information? Because if I'm a web minister, I'm not necessarily the one planning the event, so I'm not making decisions about this stuff. So where do you get it? Top places is going to be your event steward or event stewards if there's multiple. Your local seneschal, activity coordinators. So if you've got somebody running combat or whatever, sometimes you can pug them. But a good way to let folks know what they should send you to put on the website is to circulate that sample event page. And so sending it to your event stewards, sending it to your local seneschal. If you're having business meetings, making sure that folks are aware that that is there as a template so that you can kind of bake this into your local event process. Because you as the web minister are absolutely the best person to advocate for keeping the web pages up to date and trying to get other people to collaborate with you to make this happen. And I am including this specific dive about event pages. I'll come back to that. Because events are, kind of our major activities for the organization, and we want people to be able to find the information, make their plans, attend, have fun, and then continue playing with us in our organization. Yes, not everybody is on Facebook or Discord or the email list. So related to that, my next page, just general reminders about event pages. General thing about like PDFs, images. We've had our social media officers who've been doing a great job making like little teaser thumbnails and things like that have little blurbs about events. For the website specifically, if you're embedding a PDF or an images, try to also put the text from that on the page so that if folks are using screen readers or trying to search through your pages, it's a lot easier to do that if they're not getting kind of prevented from searching the text by image formats. If you create a web page for an event, be the advocate, remind your event steward to send that link over to the Kingdom Calendar Deputy. The responsibility for communicating events up for Kingdom events falls on the event steward and the seneschal, so be the voice that says, don't forget to do that. As most of the Kingdom, I haven't looked at it recently, but the last time I looked at our site traffic data for Ansteorra.org, folks either, like the top 2 pages that folks visit, it's either Ansteorra.org and then they go to the officers page, or they go straight to Ansteorra.org/events. Like that is that is basically our backup landing page for our site, where folks are going to check to find information. And then related to social platforms, if your group, your seneschals or whatever, are using Facebook or Discord to post event updates, that's great. But advocate that they send that information to you as well so you can put it on the website. Because not everybody is on Facebook, not everybody's on Discord, not everybody is on TikTok or checks the email list, but everybody can access the website without a login, and from any device. And so that is where you can centralize your information, and then use the other platforms, for chatting, for coordinating, for kind of the on-demand stuff, but the core information, get that on the website. And then the last thing, this is a reminder, most other officers aren't thinking about the website as often as you are. So be kind and patient as you ask for information and content, because the website is going to be the thing that is front of mind for you, not necessarily for them. So, be kind, be patient, but still advocate for making website updates part of your event process. Okay, we are now going to do our very quick technology review. I'm going to be talking about Google Calendar, Zapier, and ChronicleBot. Most groups in Ansteorra, I think, are using Google Calendar to manage events, but I wanted to point out a couple of features of it that you may not be aware of. And if you're not using Google Calendar, I'm going to start up front saying you should seriously consider it, take it to your groups, talk about it, because it can make managing your events and getting activities updated way easier than having static information on your website. So, why would we want to use Google Calendar? It's easy to embed on the website. We have, there's multiple ways that you can embed a Google Calendar on your page. It's easy to make events editable by the responsible officers. For example, if you have a fighter practice, you can make it so that your night marshal, your rapier marshal, and your seneschal can all edit the details for that fighter practice in case the time changes or there's a weather delay or a weather cancellation, anything like that. It's easy to sync to Discord. That ChronicleBot that I'll talk about is amazing. I love it. Google Calendar, for members of your populace, you can make it very easy for folks to just subscribe to your whole calendar. I do that for my local group, so my Google Calendar on my phone shows me all my local activities, and I love it. Google Calendar, it's also easy for individuals if they want to just take one of your activities and add it to their personal calendar. Google Calendar makes that easy. And the other big benefit to us is because we use G Suite and have Google accounts, Google Calendar, it can be attached to your officer account so that it will follow the officer through transitions, and it won't be attached to a individual on a personal account, which is really good for us. So a couple of features. For most of us, I'm assuming we all know how calendar applications work, so I'm not going to go into that level of detail. However, if folks really want a deep dive, send me an email or throw it in the chat, because I can look at doing after roundtable, like a dedicated let's dive into this app kind of walkthrough. But making events editable by other officers. So anytime you create an event on your Google Calendar, you have the option to add guests. I highly recommend doing this for local activities because, like I said, for your fighter practice, add your marshals, add your seneschal, and you can give them the guest permissions to modify the event. My local group has been doing this for a while, and it's really amazing because when our marshals realize that it's 20 degrees and too cold to do fighter practice outside, they just update the event to say weather cancellation, and it shows up on the website and our Discord server without us having to touch anything or without having to wait for the Webminister to log in and make changes, which cuts off on a lot of delay, which is great. The second thing, subscribing to the calendar. So I mentioned you can when you have Google Calendar, you can go to the settings for the calendar and you can grab they call it a calendar ID. And then there's also always a public URL to the calendar as long as you've made it publicly visible. And those are things that you can use to add, a button on your website that says click here if you want to add this to your personal calendar so that folks can get notifications or just see the activities kind of on demand. Embedding it on the website. The plugin that I think works the best or is the simplest to configure is just called Calendars. I've got this little screenshot. It's got a little calendar icon and it says Calendars. Very straightforward. But this is a little snippet of kind of what it looks like to configure the calendar. You throw in your calendar ID. It optionally gives you the ability to query. So like if you want to only pull in events that say business meeting, you can do that, and it'll preemptively query out just the things that match your terms, and depending on how fine-grained and detailed you want to make with your calendars, that's an option there. You can customize the appearance of it. This is an example of, you can display it as a grid. You can also just display things as a list. Lists are good because you can say, I just want to show a list of like activities in the next 7 days and like put that on your homepage or something. But the plugin, I think, works pretty nice. You can customize the colors. The hover, on desktop, hovering over an item gives you the option. You can click to see more details, and that'll take you to like the Google calendar item. It's very customizable, so if you're not using this, check it out. And if you have questions or if we want a much more deep dive, again, throw that in the chat or send me an email, and I can make time to do that. So next convenience tool that I want to talk about, so that you can think about it, is a tool called Zapier. Have any of y'all seen the posts that have gone, they show up in Facebook and Discord that says, hey, there's a new post on the Ansteorra website. Recently we had announcements about roundtable volunteers. Whenever the Kingdom Seneschal publishes like law changes, I've done those a fair amount. We're still in pretty like the early adoption stages at the kingdom level, but Zapier is not the only tool that does this, but it's a tool that lets you configure automatic cross-posting between platforms. Calendar question. Let me read that before I continue. Yeah, so through the website for sure, you can import multiple calendars. And so if, some of your activities are on a marshal's calendar and some are on like the seneschal's calendar, you can import both of those to your website and actually group them into a single view. The plugin works pretty well for that. So that would be an option for sure. Good question. Okay, so Zapier allows you to configure automatic cross-posting between platforms. This is really cool for us as web ministers because if you have a website blog, which we all use WordPress, which means every single one of our sites has an RSS feed. If your I keep using Bringalot as an example because that's where I'm at, and that's the site that I go to a lot. But if your website is ansteorra.org/Bringalot or /Moonshadow, if you add a /feed, that's your RSS feed. That always exists. We don't really use them this much at this point, but Zapier lets you take advantage of that because you can configure automatic cross-posting from your website blog to your email discussion list, your Facebook page, your group's Discord channel. I want to say right now, I think those are still kind of the top 3 social tools that we're using as a kingdom. So those are the 3 I list. So if, say, you have a fighter practice cancellation, make a post on your website that says practice is canceled, and then automatically you can get your email list gets a notice, Facebook page gets a post, and your Discord gets a message, so that whatever platform folks prefer to use, they can hopefully see that notification, and it'll always show up on your website, which is very central. Zapier, a couple of details about it. I like it specifically because it's free tier, lets you have 100 zaps a month. That's what they call if you send something from a blog to an email, that's a zap. And in practice, that is more than enough for our kind of level of usage for local groups. It's very easy to configure. It's got helpful support articles. It's a mature and reliable platform. And I think it's a great way to make announcements that hit all the approved platforms that your group uses. There are certainly other tools that do this. If you've heard of Hootsuite is one big one that comes to mind. As far as policy goes at the Kingdom, we don't have rules that say you can use this, you can't use that. But any tools that you use should be mature, reliable, have support, and configured responsibly. This is a couple of screenshots. So Zapier, you can make multiple zaps. So I've got a little screenshot here. These are two that I set up. The little icons on the first row, it's the little RSS icon, and then Facebook. So this is the one that goes from the Ansteorra RSS feed to the Kingdom Facebook page. The next one has the little RSS icon and the Google Mail icon. So that goes from the Kingdom website to our Ansteorra announce discussion list. They're easy to configure. Zapier, the user interface is very straightforward. It's, what app are you using? What's your trigger? Do you want to test it? And it uses lots of green check marks and red X's when things go well or they go poorly. So it's very easy to know that you've got it set up right. And I think their support articles are pretty good. I've set this up for the Kingdom website. I've set this up for Brinkwalad. We hit our email, Facebook, and Discord anytime we make a blog, and check a little bit, of kind of training and getting the populace used to it. But now that we have been using it, we use it all the time. It's been really helpful for our group. Just simplifying and centralizing announcements. All right, so that's about Zapier. Same thing with Google Calendar. If folks are interested in this and you say, you know what, let's do a walkthrough. Let's do like an actual Zapier call. Throw that in chat. Let me know if you're interested because I can schedule something outside of this event that we can do. Chronicle bot. So this is a Discord bot that lets you manage Discord's events automatically from a Google Calendar. For folks, I know not all our groups are using Discord heavily, so this may not apply to your group, and that's okay. But if you are using Discord, the really cool thing about Discord is you can have events in your server so that folks will get a little notification that says, hey, an event is happening. And wouldn't it be cool if you could have your local fighter practice, your guild meetings, all of those activities show up in Discord so that folks who use that app can see when those activities are happening. Before I found ChronicleBot, really the only way to do this was to manually type in events and then manually change them if they got updated. And so it's just immediately out of date, a pain, a lot of work, and it's just not worth the effort. But ChronicleBot is a bot that lets you basically pair a Google Calendar to your Discord server, and it'll automatically create events in your server for you and update them when things change. It's super easy to customize. You can customize the frequency and the content of the notifications. And the really cool things is if a Google event gets updated, we've had weather cancellations in our group. Pretty much as soon as whoever's editing the event saves it, the Discord server gets updated. So it's really fast. A couple of screenshots. So these are examples. Ansteorra calendar to Ansteorra Discord. Anybody who's in that server might have noticed that the events get updated. I think this one has a 2-week look forward. It's either 2 weeks or a month. I can't remember offhand. And once a week, it'll say, here are the events that are happening in the next 30 days. Those happen automatically. I don't have to do anything for those to happen. And then I have another one that's the Bring Aloud calendar to the Bring Aloud Discord. Does the same thing. I love it. In the center of the screen, this is a little screenshot from Discord, like the very top of the server. You can see it's 12 events, and the little 4 says there's 4 that have been added recently. It does a look forward every day, and so it kind of picks up events on a rolling week. And then the last thing is just a little screenshot. You know, how many, this is an example of the configuration options. You know, for event reminders, how many days forward do you search? Do you want to tag a specific role? Do you want to clean up the details after the event has happened to reduce clutter, things like that? So it's got a lot of really easy options to toggle on and off. So that's the end of my technology review, and I'm at the end of my slides. So takeaways from today, since I hit a lot of topics, is probably tomorrow, maybe Monday, look in your emails for the draft Kingdom Webminister's Handbook. I may also be sending out a draft privacy policy that Society Web has me working on. I have to decide on that one too, but definitely look for the handbook, and you have 2 weeks to give me feedback if you have any. If you haven't already, submit your quarterly reports. It is a requirement of the office, and they're helpful for me, and I can help you. Bring that sample event webpage to your seneschals, to your event stewards, and advocate that they use it as a template for what information to give you for events. This works as a note for keeping your website updated with events. It's also really good for them to send that information to your chroniclers so this stuff can get published in your newsletters. If you're not using Google Calendar to manage your activities, consider doing it, and consider taking advantage of the ability to give your officers the ability to edit their events, because that just makes edits happen so much faster. And then if they sound interesting, bring the idea of using Zapier and ChronicleBot to your local group so that we can take advantage of tools that make our lives easier. Yes, that is my last slide. Are there any questions?